Welcome to the Armchair Expert. I'm your host, Dax Shepard. Before I tell you about today's guest, I just want to share something that happened this morning while I was driving my daughter to a gymnastics class. I didn't even tell you about this yet, Monica.
Okay.
On Los Feliz Boulevard, I passed a couple guys in a Range Rover, and as I passed them, they honked the horn and threw the bird out the window, and I could hear them screaming, "Fuck you."
To you.
To me, yeah. We were the only two people going east on Los Feliz Boulevard.
Okay.
And we got up to a light, and they were next to us, and they had the windows down, so I rolled the window down, and I said, "Guys, what's the problem?" And this guy was all F-bombs. "You're driving too fast. What's the speed limit on Los Feliz Boulevard?" Screaming. His buddy was occasionally popping in with this or that he was upset about, but they kept talking about the speed limit. And then it occurred to me while I kept going, guys, you're so hostile. Hold on. Just calm down. And I noticed as they were screaming at me about the speed limit, they were both sucking on gigantic doobies. There was so much pot smoke in the car.
Oh, my. Oh, boy.
And I couldn't help but think how funny it was that they had really prioritized the speed limit
As
on Los
safety.
Feliz Boulevard. But mind you, it was 8:30 in the morning.
Right.
And they are chugging a couple of doobies with the windows down. And at a certain point, it occurred to me, these guys might still be up from last night. Because why are they on the road at 8:30 in the morning pounding doobage?
Yeah, I don't like that.
I bet they were up all night, and then they were on their way to get a greasy breakfast.
Sure.
And they were smoking those doobies. But I will say, I had this whole exchange with them, and I never got angry. I just kept going, guys, just hold on a second. You're very hostile. What is it I did? And, I drove away, and I have to say, I wasn't super excited I even got involved in that with my daughter in the car. But yet, I was proud of the what do I want to say? The growth. Normally, I would have been screaming and stuff, right?
Yeah, you would have.
And I would have done that in front of my child, and that wouldn't have been cool. But anyways, after I drove away, and I thought, oh, you know what? I chose the de-escalation path.
Mm-hmm.
I think I learned that from our favorite documentary, Wild Wild Country, which is a real study of escalation versus de-escalation, right?
Yeah.
You guys should all watch that if you haven't seen it on Netflix yet. We're obsessed with it. It's almost all we talk about. The Bhagwan and my new crush, Ma Anand, Sheila, who's so powerful. Speaking of super powerful short ladies, our guest today is a real treat. We both hoped that this podcast would take off enough that we would not have to beg all of my friends to come to the attic, but that hopefully people would want to be on. And this was the first person who reached out to us who wanted to be on.
It was exciting.
And guys, it's Katie Couric. What are the odds that Katie Couric reaches out, wants to be in your attic of your war zone construction project?
Slim to none.
How excited were we?
Jumping up and down.
Yeah, almost backflip level.
Like, truly.
Yeah. I am very, very attracted to short, smart ladies.
Sure.
Right? My wife is a very short, very smart, powerful lady. My mom is a short, smart, powerful lady. And you are a short, small, powerful lady. It's fantastic. So without further ado, please enjoy one of the smartest, one of the most powerful, one of the funnest, Katie Couric. Stay tuned.
We get support from Quince.
Have you been wearing the Quince linen shirts?
Yeah, I've been wearing them a suspicious amount. Yeah, European linen ones, they're $34, which is genuinely insane for how nice they are.
It doesn't even make sense.
Well, here's the deal. They work directly with the factories, cut out all the middlemen, so you're paying for the actual quality and not some brand's marketing budget. Everything's 50 to 80% less than comparable stuff. I love it because it's all very classic and traditional, and I know I'm going to be able to keep it for a very long time, and the quality's off the charts.
That's true. The style is very consistent. Whatever you get there, you walk down the street, you're going to look good. They have these lightweight cotton sweaters, which I love for when it cools down at night. It's a nice drape around your shoulders in the summer and then throw it on when it gets a little cool. And it's not just clothes. They do home stuff, ding, 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 travel stuff, everyday essentials. It's all the same model, quality without the markup.
Make your summer wardrobe easier. Go to quince.com/Dax for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/Dax for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Dax. We are supported by Auto Trader. All right, if you've been putting off car shopping because it sounds like a whole thing, buying your car online on Auto Trader makes it way easier, really. You can shop tons of cars online, compare prices, check financing and trade-in options, all from wherever you are. And if you want to start online and go to the dealership for a test drive, you can do that too, really. What I like is the flexibility. Start online, finish at the dealer, or the other way around. Your info stays with you, so you're not starting the process from scratch. Plus, you're working with local dealer listings, so you've got real people helping behind the scenes. And when you're ready, you can pick up your car or have it delivered. Really. Buy your car online on Auto Trader. Really.
He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, Rob, you ready? Katie Couric, welcome to the Armchair Expert.
Thank you.
It's mind-blowing you're sitting on the couch, I gotta say.
Thank you, Dr. Dax.
When Monica and Rob and I started this, the goal was, hopefully it'll get known enough that just when I'm begging people to do it, it'll be less, terrible on my end. And your publicist actually reached out to us, and I don't think you can imagine the celebration that happened in our kitchen when Monica goes, "You're not going to believe who actually wants to be on Armchair." Katie Couric.
We were so excited.
Well, I'm a big fan, and I think it's so interesting in this day and age how you get to people, how you get to their eyes and ears. And I think it's really cool that you've embraced this new medium and that you're having fun with it.
It's really easy to go like, oh, this business is changing. I liked how it was, and I'm just going to dig my heels in and be angry that it's not what it was. But that's a one-way ticket out of the business, right?
Definitely. I mean, listen, there are people who are doing a great job at what I did for years and years in terms of television news and primarily focusing on that. I think they're trying to expand in other arenas too, but that's their bread and butter. And that's still a really important genre, television news. But I have always tried to predict or at least have my finger on the pulse of how things are changing. When I was at CBS doing the CBS Evening News, which is really one of the most old school networks there is, I said, when we were covering the Gulf oil spill, I said, hey, let's take some Twitter questions, because when you're covering stories day in and day out, sometimes you lose sight of some very basic questions.
Yeah, sure.
And I thought viewers would have interesting questions that maybe we miss.
You get very deep inside the forest, right?
And I remember one of the vice president of the news division said to a colleague of mine, I think it's really beneath the anchor of the CBS Evening News to be on the Twitter.
Right.
And I was like, clearly this is not a sort of looking ahead at the future organization.
Yeah.
And I remember getting a question, Dax, and it was, how much oil is down there? And I was like, you see?
Yeah.
That's a really interesting
question. Was it 10 gallons?
No, but it was a lot of oil. I don't even remember how much it was or if it was an infinite amount.
Millions of gallons.
But, so I have always tried to keep an eye on what's happening in the landscape and embrace it rather than shy away from it.
Yeah. And you've worked through a couple of big paradigm shifts. One of them being when you started, there were 3 options for news generally, or maybe 2 on your local. And then the 24-hour news cycle started, and CNN was born, and MSNBC, and all these things. And what was your initial reaction to that?
I actually started at ABC News as a desk assistant right out of college. But then CNN was just starting. So I worked at CNN before it even started.
Oh, really? Did you have encounters with Ted Turner?
I saw him from afar. I didn't really know him. I remember the first meeting he had with all these bright-eyed CNN people who were very excited about this new way of delivering the news. And I remember he got up in front of all the employees and said, we're going to beam this shit all over the place. And everyone was like, really? That's our fearless leader? But so, of course, he's kind of a larger than life figure.
Yeah.
But so I was kind of right there as that changed and have kind of tried to iterate, as they say, in tech all along.
Am I right to guess, though, that at the peak of the 3 network options, when you had like a Ted Koppel or Tom Brokaw or one of these guys were getting tons of money, right? Because their viewership was in the tens of millions, right? And so when it became kind of diluted by all these other positions, did that bring the overall salary down for everyone?
Not in the early days.
Okay.
I think, for example, when I was able to be a co-anchor on the Today Show, that show is such a cash cow.
Yeah.
Morning shows bring in a ton of money to network news divisions. So as a result, you had a lot of leverage when it came to your salary if you were considered an important part of that program.
Yeah.
So for the duration of my time at the Today Show, I was very well compensated.
Right. And just so people understand, the reason those are so profitable, not just the viewership, but the cost of making them is very inexpensive, right? Because you're on one set, you have your cameras already set, and you can bang out real-time content, right?
Right. And the ad revenues are high. They're reaching, I don't know.
People watch it live as well.
Yeah, I don't know as much as they used to, but the key demographics are younger, probably women who are making a lot of the purchasing decisions. I've never really kind of explored totally the ad revenue models on those shows, but they got good ratings. They're consistent. I think they were brand friendly, right? All those things.
Yeah. Monica and I were just at a live podcast at Dolby Center, and we learned. Actually, now I'm confusing Sam Harris.
Should say it.
Yeah, we're obsessed with Sam Harris. We talk about him every single podcast. Steven Pinker on as a guest, and then they did a live thing at Dolby, which was really fascinating. But 80% of the consumer market is driven by women. Women are making 80% of the decisions,
I think it's
right?
even sometimes I've heard as high as 85%. So
really?
Yes,
Viewership is skewing female as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
mostly women.
I have to imagine an ideal spot to advertise if you're trying to sell something to the ladies, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
So you grew up in Virginia.
I did.
Is that an idyllic childhood? Was it rural? Was it?
It wasn't rural. It was extremely suburban.
Okay.
I grew up in Arlington in Northern Virginia, which is really a suburb of Washington, D.C. So most of the people in my neighborhood, they worked for the federal government. My dad did not, but he was in journalism early in his career. He grew up in Dublin, Georgia. He went to Mercer in Macon, Georgia, wrote for the Macon Telegraph when he graduated from from college rather, and then went and worked for the Atlanta Constitution, United Press, and we moved to Washington, and he transferred into public relations, which I always thought was a shame, honestly, because my dad was so smart and such a Renaissance man, could talk fluently about just about anything.
Yeah.
And I just don't think he was I just don't think PR was a great fit for him. I mean, he did it.
Right.
But I wish he had
Was
stuck
he
with
drawn
journalism.
into it for financial reasons?
I think so, yeah. I think it was really hard to raise a family of 4 kids on a newspaper man's salary.
Yeah.
And so that's why he went into that field. But
And were you a daddy's girl?
I loved both my parents so much. I think I was inspired by my dad, and he really encouraged me to pursue journalism because I was always a pretty good writer. I remember the head of the NAB was a man named Vincent Wasilewski. And my mom picked my dad and Mr. Wasilewski up at the airport, and I was in the back of our station wagon. And I kept asking him if he wanted to hear a joke because I was sort of a little joker like you were when you were little. And it was when Polish jokes were all the rage.
Oh, sure.
And so my mom.
In fact, if you do the setup, I bet I can do the punchline.
Yeah, my mom, knowing that Vincent Wasilewski probably would not find Polish jokes super amusing, was about to blow a gasket. And she was driving. She said, "No, Katie." And Mr. Wasilewski was like, "Come on, tell the joke. And of course, I got immediately the vibe from my mom that I should not go there, but it was a
You didn't get it out.
No.
Were you going to ask him how to get a one-armed Polish man out of a tree?
No, how?
Wave.
I don't get it.
Well, because
One arm he would wave.
One arm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to use the
But
pejorative term.
those were all the rage for a little while,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
interesting because today it would be considered obviously culturally and inappropriate. It's culturally insensitive and highly inappropriate.
Well, we talk about this nonstop. We're kind of obsessed with this issue because
I would love to hear you talk about this because I'm doing a whole hour for National Geographic on this.
It's about this.
Well, I'm doing 6 hours, and one of the episodes is about sort of this heightened cultural sensitivity, what's happening not only on college campuses, but in literature, in books, Dr.
Well, just
Seuss,
all of academia, too.
yeah,
has been.
fashion. It's been really interesting.
Yeah. And so let me just, because I always make the mistake of saying after the fact, I'll make this argument and then I'll go, oh, it should go without saying. I think women and men should make the same amount. But I've just said a bunch of other stuff. So I'm just going to start by saying, I'm probably getting to the age where I should shut up. You know, I think inevitably as culture changes, you're going to get left behind on some topics, and I can accept that. And I can recognize that there are going to be things I just don't agree with as I get older and older. So this could be one of them. I could be wrong, but I do think we can definitely make Polish jokes because, as Monica would say, I'm white, so I'm entitled to make some Polish jokes, right? I'm probably
But
not.
are you Polish?
I can tell you I am. Yeah. How would you possibly know if I was Polish or not? I think it's within our realm as comedians to be making all the white people jokes we want to make. If we're white men, right? Probably not white female jokes. We should probably stay away from those. And then we can leave it to the comedians that are, say, who's your favorite? The Indian comedian you love?
Hassan Minhaj.
Yeah. So this is something we debated about. Is Hassan Minhaj points out that there is an official immigrant car, which is the Toyota Camry, which is a brilliant observation.
So funny. And
I said, Monica, I could point that same thing out. It's still a great observation. And I lament that I don't have that option, but that's probably just my entitlement and my, wanting to be a part of every single thing. And I'm not allowed to be a part of every single thing.
It's all very interesting because it's changing. And I think people have very sort of hardened opinions about this. And one of the things I wanted to explore in this hour is this dividing us? Is it keeping us from being able to explore things that aren't quote unquote in our lane and part of our cultural purview? Or is this, and it's much more nuanced. I think one of the problems in our culture today is people have these very specific opinions about things and they don't hear other points of view. They don't kind of understand that it's much more nuanced. I think media wise, it's so much easier to kind of say it's black or white. It's this or that.
So yes, and we talk about this a lot. And my opinion on that is like we have slowly, weirdly embraced technology to the point where we work in binary opposition now. So we are black or white. We are a 1 or a 0.
Well,
We've
you're
lost
getting
the middle.
affirmation, not information.
Yes, and so this is great because this is a thing that Monica and I were just talking about a couple days ago, which is I reject the claim that I can't understand your experience. And specifically, I mean, I reject that I can't relate to a human feeling you have. Now, I don't have the black experience. I never will. I don't claim to have that. But the example I gave was this. If you're a Muslim kid growing up in the Midwest and you've got to leave your classroom twice a day to go pray, that must feel very excluding. You must feel very other than, and it's us and them. And so I can't relate to being a Muslim kid leaving to pray twice a day. But I can relate to being learning disabled and going to the special ed room twice a day, which was humiliating beyond belief and excluding, and I felt less than. So, yes, I'm not claiming I know the experience, but I am saying as a human, I understand the feeling, and the feeling of exclusion and feeling less than, I can relate to. So just because I'm white doesn't mean I can't relate to that. And that to me is the distinction.
I agree. And I think, we all want to have empathy for other people's situation. And if you can't talk about it, if you can't ask questions, if you can't have an opinion or try to contribute to the conversation, it's incredibly separating and divisive. And I have a friend who someone said to her, you can't really talk about this because you're not Black.
Right.
And I think that's a dangerous delineation for people. I understand. Yes, that's true.
Mhm.
And there are certain things about particular experiences that are unique to individuals. On the other hand, if we silo each other off so much, how can we come together and form some kind of mutual understanding?
Yes.
That's my point, is that if you want a greater mass of people to join your movement, people don't join movements to be spectators. They join movements to be participants. So if the opening statement is, you'll never understand my story, you should never speak of my story, join my movement, I don't think you're going to get a lot of people joining the movement, because who wants to come just be in the audience of a movement? You want to have an opinion. You want to be
you want people to be invested in what you're doing and what you care about. And I think people want to. We're just living in these very polarizing times, and it's complicated. And I've learned a lot about, just in the course of this series, about all these hot button issues and about sort of what cultural appropriation means. I was talking to Elaine Welteroth, who was the editor of Teen Vogue, and she left to pursue some other opportunities. And, she talked about minstrel shows being sort of one of the first cultural appropriation, inappropriate use of someone else. And
people are would do those in blackface, right?
Blackface, yeah. And they're so deeply offensive. And I hadn't really thought of it as a case of cultural appropriation. And I think if you're, it is hard. I think you have to acknowledge that it is, in fact, difficult to understand the experiences of a marginalized community if you're not part of that community,
For
because
sure.
it is such an accumulation of slights and attitudes that I think really do shape how you see yourself and how you interface with the world.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I think we have to have some kind of open dialogue while acknowledging that, to figure out how we're going to move forward.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare. This episode is supported by Helix. All right, let's talk about something we both really care deeply about: sleep.
It's the most important thing. I've had my Helix mattress for years now, and I genuinely think it's one of the best investments you can make for your home. Mine still feels just like it did when I first got it.
Well, that's the thing. It's not one of those mattresses that caves in after 6 months. These things are built to last. And, I'm a side sleeper. I ordered a side sleeper, and I get hot, so I have cooling. And I can't tell you how much more comfortable it is to be in there, not sweating and tossing and turning.
Cooling is really important. I've read that you're supposed to sleep a little bit cold. So I also have cooling. And they have over 20 models, so it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. You just go take their quiz, and they match you to what actually works for your body.
Plus, they've got cooling upgrades, which heading into summer, non-negotiable.
Truly.
Go to helixsleep.com/armchair for 20% off. That's helixsleep.com/armchair for 20% off. Make sure you enter our show name after checkout so they know we sent you. helixsleep.com/armchair. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. So, Monica, here's something that really stuck with me. BetterHelp's 2026 State of Stigma report surveyed 2,000 Americans and revealed that 85% of Americans believe getting support is wise. Yet 74% say society discourages people from doing so.
That's a huge gap. Most of us agree therapy is a good thing, but there's still something holding some people back from actually going.
Right. And I think that's where just talking about it, normalizing it, makes a difference.
I mean, as you know, I'm obsessed with therapy. I've been in it consistently for years and years and years. And I have said this, and I shouldn't say it, but I do think if you're struggling and you've been struggling for a while and you haven't sought therapy, I judge you a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Okay, yeah, I know. And I'm not, and I got to go to therapy to work on that, but also there are options for you. You can help yourself. And BetterHelp makes that first step easier. They match you with a licensed therapist based on your needs. And with over 30,000 therapists and 12 plus years of experience, they typically get the match right the first time.
Don't let stigma stand in the way of support. Start therapy with BetterHelp. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/Dax. That's betterhelp.com/Dax. This episode is brought to you by SoFi, the all-in-one finance app where you can bank, borrow, and invest all in one place.
Let's talk bank accounts for a second. The average bank savings rate is 0.39% in interest. You're earning pennies on your savings, but it does not have to be that way.
With SoFi high yield checking and savings, the money barely making moves sitting in your savings account can earn over 8 times the national average savings rate with eligible direct deposit.
No account or overdraft fees, which feels rare these days. You can get your paycheck up to 2 days early, perfect for getting ahead of a bill or grabbing what you need right when you need it.
Plus, get up to a $300 welcome bonus when you sign up with eligible direct deposit. Sign up for SoFi checking and savings at SoFi.com/armchair. SoFi checking and savings is offered through SoFi Bank N.A. member FDIC. Terms apply.
I had to recognize, this is why I can't relate. So there was a famous case that was in the media recently where an agent grabbed a black actor's penis at a party. And then obviously that actor was very, very upset. And I happen to know both people involved. And my take was, if I was at a party at a friend's house and someone grabbed my dick in front of my wife, I wouldn't care. That just me personally, I could give a shit. I would go, that was a weird joke, right? So I can't relate to feeling like, say, sexually assaulted by that. But then I thought, well, in life, in general, I'm a 6'2" white guy, so I don't feel powerless very often. I don't walk into rooms and feel powerless all the time. So it takes a lot to make me feel powerless. But if I was regularly marginalized, I would feel powerless quite often, and it wouldn't probably take much to make me feel angry and powerless. So that's an example where, like, yeah, my own blinders could make me not understand what that person went through.
Plus, it's probably hard for you to really understand the nature of their relationship, right?
Yeah,
you
sure.
have a relationship with one and with both individuals, but in terms of how they interact, you don't really know.
Yeah.
So who knows the baggage that might be part and parcel of that relationship, right?
Yes. And also now I'm going to jump into another hot lava topic, but another thing that needs to be considered all the time is if the three of us in this room right now, Rob, the four of us are asked tomorrow what happened in this room, all four of us will have a completely different version of what happened in this room. That's just human nature. We're not experiencing things the same way as
It's
one
like
another.
Eyewitness accounts, right? That's why they're so
they're
unreliable.
almost useless,
Yeah.
right? And that has now been thoroughly proven. And so what is scary and what is dangerous is that quite often both people are telling the truth, and we don't really have an answer for that. So often both people are telling the truth.
Their truth.
Exactly.
Yes. Now there is a third truth. If there were a camera in the room, we would have, an objective truth to it. But I have a friend who is a nanny who feels a little less than because of that title and has gone into a store and been told that they won't sell it to her because she's a nanny. That's for mothers. Are you a mother or are you a nanny? This whole experience, which I found to be not possible. But I do believe that she had that experience. I don't deny that she had that experience. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
We hear things that confirm hunches we already have.
So what happened to her exactly?
She went into a store with baby goods and she wanted help with something. And then according to her, the owner said, "Are you a nanny or a mother?" Which I just can't comprehend that would ever happen. I don't know why the owner would say that. But if you're waiting for people to be pointing out that you're a nanny, then you hear certain things. Help me, Monica, make that.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I think it easily could have happened. I could totally see a scenario where I was buying something and they were like, "Oh, are you a mom?"
Well, yeah, in a cheerful way.
Well, yeah, she probably
Yes.
did say, "Are you a nanny or are you a mom?" They probably get multiple types of
Well,
people.
why would they
coming
say
in.
that though?
I don't know, but I wouldn't even think twice about that. Like, I would never think about that after the fact that they were wondering if I was
A lowly nanny or
right. But if you're
mother.
insecure about that, you're going to
Yes,
hear it.
that's
and
my
are
greater
you a
point.
nanny?
Right.
Yes. And I have, when I have my insecurities are people think I'm dumb, the list goes on. And then everything someone's saying to me, I'm thinking
You're
they're-
hearing it through that filter.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I will repeat this story, but and it's just that was my version of what happened.
But I do want to say one thing before we
Yes.
go on. it's a little dangerous, I think, to say that everyone's truths are truths.
No. Listen, many men are lying. The vast majority of men are lying in those situations.
Yeah, but I don't even.
But what I'm saying is sometimes both people are telling the truth.
I think
their truth.
Often everyone is telling their version of what happened, but I think it's dangerous to say everyone's telling the truth, because that gets into fake news situations. That gets into a lot of things where people say, well, I was there and I saw this. To me, it was this.
Right.
To me, the inauguration was full of people.
Well, and I'm sure you've had this in your own experience, which is you are much like my wife. You are very powerful. You're very accomplished. I'm assuming you have pretty good self-esteem. So you've probably had interactions with men who have later been exposed as being predatory that weren't predatory with you because you're not a good target.
Yes.
Right? Does
That's
that
true.
happen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so it puts you in a weird position after the fact of going like, yes, I recognize that, yet I didn't experience that. Yeah.
Yeah. And to go back to what Monica said, I think what we're saying is sometimes when people are talking about their feelings, and this is, of course, a controversial area as well, because some people feel that this emphasis on feelings is too much, but that it's their perception of how they felt or what, how something transpired. And when we talk about their own truths, I think their own accounts of how they felt about something that happened.
Yes.
Yeah, in a personal situation. That's what I was sort of talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, getting back to that.
So, and then, because I just want to come back to one thing you were talking about, the documentary you're about to make. I think, too, what's dangerous now about the sensitivity is that the way academia has always worked, and the reason we've gotten such great breakthroughs scientifically and whatnot, is that someone writes a paper, a good percentage of it is flawed, and we have peer review, and they go, you might want to check this data set. I think this doesn't really add up with what we've gotten, right? And through this process of peer review, we come to find the truth. But it requires that somebody has the latitude to say something wrong, right? Or that the bulk of what they're saying is right, but then some 10% of it is wrong, and then that comes under scrutiny, and then it gets corrected. And that is a great process for finding the truth. And I think now that people's careers can end if they say the wrong sentence, they can be ostracized. That's dangerous.
Demonized on social media.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we have to be able to go, okay, someone's going to say a lot of things. Some of them are going to be insensitive, wrong. And they should have the ability
or ignorant,
to correct.
right?
Yeah.
But it's okay to be ignorant. I think you're right. I think that's when it does get dangerous, when people can't, with genuineness and a true curiosity and with no intention to offend, cannot ask questions or talk about an area that, the very question brings them ridicule or, they're portrayed as something they're not. I think, that's a whole big sticky wicket about all this, about does it stifle free speech? Is it, I interviewed Adam Carolla for this hour, who has testified on Capitol Hill and is actually doing a documentary, testified on Capitol Hill. And
what's his position?
He thinks that college kids are basically, they need to have the fortitude to hear things that they don't
that are
like,
offensive.
and
That's part of
that
the
are
experience.
offensive.
Mhm.
And but the other side is, maybe there's nothing wrong with people being more thoughtful about how they approach certain topics. I guess it's a fine line, isn't it? Like everything, it's kind of a little of both sides are right.
Yes,
when it becomes so intense that people feel like they can't have a conversation, that can't be good.
You got to float some bad ideas to discover they're bad, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's how you learn.
But but this whole issue of microaggressions and, making comments. I interviewed Morty Shapiro, who's the president of Northwestern, about this. And he told a story about the Trojans, the USC Trojans, right?
Yes.
He was at a football game and there was a band playing. And this is when, a number of years ago, I think the president and administrator's wife turned to him and said, "Oh, you must really love this band." Mm-hmm. And he said, "Yeah, I like this marching band." And he said, because your people really like music.
What?
And he is Jewish.
Okay.
And he didn't realize at the time that he was the only Jewish person in this group of people.
Okay.
And
I don't even know the stereotype that Jews love music, but that's new to me. That's exciting.
I know.
Yeah.
He gave an example of that, like just a boneheaded, prejudiced, weird thing to say, and made him feel really uncomfortable. That's an example of something that he remembers to this day, even though it happened many years ago.
Yeah.
So I think kind of asking people to appreciate their preconceived notions and their own implicit biases and prejudices is something that's appropriate, especially as these colleges and universities try to be more inclusive and try to make people feel welcome. So I'm trying to present all these different sides so people can kind of hear people talk about it.
And back to the first point you made, which is we're so inclined to black and white options. This, like so many things, it'll fall in the middle. So it's not that, no, you should be able to go dressed in blackface for Halloween on a college campus. It's not either that option or you saying that, I don't even know, some innocuous observation makes you a racist and blah, blah, blah. Those aren't the only two options, right? I think there's, like everything, there's a little pendulum and it swings a little too far this way and a little too far that way. And I also recognize that I'm probably buying into the hysteria about the college campuses. So there's been these evergreens, a popular case of when this happened.
Reed College is another.
Yes, there's been a handful of them, and of course I witnessed them because they're on YouTube. And so I start thinking that all college campuses are this way, and it might be a very rare thing that happens that I'm probably overreacting to.
Well, I think people, again, getting back to gathering your own set of facts, right? People cherry pick things that support their point of view.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do think it's just a lot more complicated than if people listen and kind of understand and hear other points of view and why, safe spaces might be important to be comfortable before you engage in uncomfortable learning. If you in fact feel uncomfortable, maybe that is actually a good thing.
Yeah,
so
or
I
be
think,
upfront. Go like, hey, this is going to get dicey for the next hour and a half. We're going to talk about some stuff that's going to be offensive.
Yeah.
And I think maybe if you have the appropriate expectation, you're not caught off guard so
right.
much.
And I think, I was talking to Morty Shapiro about that, and it's almost like warnings before a movie. He said he went to a film about the Holocaust. It was interesting for him to give examples about himself personally. It helped me understand it more.
Yeah.
And he said, some of my family died in the Holocaust, and it would have been nice if I had just known. Because, everybody sort of mocks this whole notion of re-traumatizing people, but it does happen. And why not just it's really just kind of a courteous heads up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So you've done a bunch of amazing interviews. I watched a few of them last night for fun. First and foremost, the fact that you were on 60 Minutes, that's my all-time favorite show. So that's exciting. Two of them jump out at me. One of them is you famously asked Sarah Palin the question, what magazines or newspapers are you reading to start your day, right, to stay informed? Do you remember this, Monica?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very famous question.
in college.
One of the top 10 most famous questions, probably. And then her response obviously was like, oh, I read all of them. And then you said, well, specifically, which ones do you read? And then it was pretty much exposed that she's not reading any of those. When I watched the video, that's now 10 years ago or 11 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And I no longer have the ire towards her that I used to have because it was a threat to me at that time. I was so in support of Obama and I was so terrified of her and McCain being, president and vice president that, I disliked her at that time. And now I don't dislike her. Now it's 11 years later. And what's weird is I'm watching that video and I loved when it happened, but now I'm watching it 11 years later and I'm like, God, I just kind of feel bad for this person. I think she just ended up in way over her head and was just underprepared. And probably any one of us, plucked out of somewhere would have had that same experience. When you have to break stories, which is your job, and we need you, and we've relied on you to expose things, and that was a very relevant thing to know about a candidate. In those moments, when you were in that moment, I don't know if you can remember exactly walking with her. And
I remember everything about that.
And you start recognizing, oh, I know where this is going. What part of your human body is going, oh, this is a little bit sad? And what part of your intellectual brain is saying this has to be exposed. What's walking that tightrope? How does that feel in that situation?
I think you've actually described her the way I feel about her. But let me backtrack for a moment. I think you can hold those two feelings simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
I think as a person, I did 2 interviews, long interviews with her, the first at the United Nations and later in Ohio. And that was when we were just getting a B-roll shot. And I was curious because I'm fascinated by how someone becomes so extreme in their beliefs. And I think she was quite extreme in her beliefs.
Yeah.
And I really, the question I was curious about is, what did you read? Like, what shaped your worldview? And what do you read to stay informed? And because I think I felt even back then, certain materials, certain people, certain
echo chambers,
resources affirm or help shape you. And I think early on, and I didn't know whether she was going to say William F. Buckley or, there's certain people who I really believe strongly in their point of view, or I didn't know she'd say the Bible. A lot of my views come from that. And, so that was kind of just a B-roll question. It wasn't a throwaway, but that was just a walk and talk.
So you didn't think that was going to,
no, it was really
in your head. Had you prepared like, oh, she might say,
no,
Okay.
That was, I just didn't know how honestly intellectually robust she was.
Right.
But I had spent a lot of time with her after her meeting with world leaders at the UN in New York. And we did many more questions that I think were much more relevant to her accomplishments, her competence, her, how she viewed the country and some of the big issues she would inevitably face. And it just was clear, honestly, from the get-go that she just wasn't ready to be thrust in this role.
Yeah.
And of course, you'd have ice water running through your veins if you didn't feel sorry for her, because one of the pieces of advice I got is, let her talk. And one of the things about interviewing people, if you're in a situation like that, not so much like this, is you jump in because nobody likes dead air.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just
Katie,
have
I'm
to
learning this.
You have to stop. You just have to not say anything.
Yeah.
And the less I said, the more she kind of was wrestling with trying to sound like she actually understood some of these issues when, frankly, I think there were just some things that she didn't really have a lot of understanding of.
When you weren't interviewing, did you get a sense, again, and none of this is, I'm not trying to steer it politically because there's plenty of political stuff you could listen to. When the cameras aren't rolling, do you just genuinely like her? Like, was she a personable person?
Yes, she was very personable. She was personable. She seemed very nice and down to earth, unpretentious.
Yeah.
And, but my job wasn't to be her friend or to go out to lunch with her. It's actually, she, at the time, John McCain had some health issues.
Right.
He had melanoma.
It was conceivable that she would be called upon.
Exactly.
Right.
And I thought it was exceedingly important to be able to ensure the American people that she could take over. She would have been a heartbeat away from the presidency.
Yeah.
And I was there to make sure she could lead this country.
Yeah.
Well, of course, now you look at the situation
Yeah.
and you wonder, well, probably, I guess, given today's standards, she could have.
She
but,
would have, yeah.
It was important back then that she had a real ability to be a critical thinker, had accumulated knowledge, and could understand important issues in a way that would give people confidence if she, in fact, were called upon to be president of the United States.
Yeah. But there's you are a primate. I'm a primate. We have all this human wiring, right? So there. I have to imagine you are fighting some instincts in your job. This is the part of journalism I don't know if people really ponder a lot, but I compare it selfishly to I was on this show Punked and I had to pull pranks on people, and there were times where I was like, this is evil. Maybe this is a little bit dicey, but this is going to be great TV. And like, I'm aware of that. Like, I'm still looking at a human being in the eyes,
of course,
in the same shared space. And there's two parts of my brain going, this primitive side is like, no, I want to be in lockstep with a human being. I want to connect with them. And yet you might have a job to do that goes very much against all those instincts. Is that something you can practice?
I think that this was such an important interview.
Yeah.
And any personal feelings I had to be put aside for the good of educating the electorate. That doesn't mean that I didn't feel bad for her.
Yeah.
Like my heart broke a little bit as she was struggling. Someone wrote that it was like a 7th grader trying to fake their way through an oral exam, but that was an insult to 7th graders and oral exams. You know, I mean, but you did feel like, listen, it would be hard to answer a lot of the questions I asked.
Oh, but I'm guilty of that. By the way, I'm watching the thing going like, oh my goodness, she doesn't read a single newspaper. Mind you, I don't read a single newspaper, so there's definitely.
But you're not running. It all is in context. Like she needed an answer for that.
Sure, absolutely. But I do think sometimes we are holding people to these standards that we ourselves are not meeting.
Well,
personally.
I just want the president, to be smarter than the person at the checkout counter.
Yes, absolutely. But there is an element to your job, right? It's not unlike a defense attorney, a criminal defense attorney, which I'm in support of. They have to represent murderers that they know murdered people, and that's how our system functions. They have to give them the best defense humanly possible because that we have to protect this system. And I'm in favor of that. But I would imagine in journalism, you have this huge, you're the fourth estate. Is that what we call you guys? Right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. You're the fourth wing of our democracy, which is you're going to help expose things that we need to know about that could be hidden. That's a huge responsibility.
It's an enormous responsibility. What's interesting now is, and we don't want to get too political, but you watch everything that's going on and getting back, Monica, to your notion of
Fake news.
Daniel Patrick Moynihan said everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but no one is entitled to their own set of facts.
Exactly.
Yeah. But now it seems that people do feel entitled to their own set of facts.
Yeah.
And no matter, and I really give kudos to all my colleagues in journalism right now. They're doing an incredible job. The question is, in the current environment, there's so much happening. It's almost hard to keep up with it.
Yeah.
And
it becomes white noise a little bit to me.
It does become white noise, which is really upsetting. Any one of these incidents would have really shattered other presidencies. Yeah. And this one, it's just, I think, it's almost like we're all frogs in water that is slowly boiling. And it starts we don't realize what's happening. And I don't know. It's just a very strange time.
I'm optimistic. I think a lot of these things in the long historical view will turn out to be great. Again, whether you love Trump or you don't love Trump, what could very likely happen is this could result in our first female president. This could be the push. I very much think that the hatred towards George Bush from the left opened up the door for our first black president, which is amazing. So historically, if you look at what he served, ultimately, a long-term view, it helped. If George W. Bush had left office testing in the 80s, I don't think we would have had Obama, sadly. Yeah. So you don't really know how this will all shake out in the end, right?
No, you don't. You don't. But in real time, it's excruciating. and I also, I think one of the silver linings, it has really galvanized and motivated so many different groups who feel that they do not like the direction the country is going in. They do not want a president who speaks this way, who conducts himself this way, and who threatens various groups, who doesn't seem to stand behind all Americans. And so they are becoming galvanized. Similarly, though, I think sometimes because of his behavior and his tweeting or whatever he's doing, it is a distraction from talking about big policy issues.
Oh, sure.
And maybe some of the things that he's doing actually are worthwhile. Maybe there needed to be less regulation. Maybe there needed to be, some of these things happening. But everything he does obscures sort of these deeper issues. And I don't think it's by design. Yeah. But I think inevitably that's what happens. And there's so much kind of these gnats flying around, and the Mueller investigation aren't gnats, but these other things may be like, oh, look what he tweeted about Chuck Todd. That becomes like a big news story. And it's such a distraction from so many other important issues.
And then, so let's also take potentially a little inventory of where media may have gone wrong. And this would just be from my having no knowledge of it. To me, when I grew up, the anchors that we trusted, right? They were very neutral by my assessment.
Except on Vietnam. Remember Walter Cronkite spoke out.
That was like
against
the
Vietnam,
first
said
time,
we're
really,
losing,
right?
And LBJ said if we've lost Cronkite, we've lost the war. But yes, you're right.
In general,
In
right?
general, of
It
course,
it stayed so neutral that when Cronkite did say that about Vietnam, people went, "Well, holy shit! This is really something," because he wouldn't do this.
It carried a lot.
It carried a ton of weight. And to me, unless I'm watching my local news, I'm either watching CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or whatever. And now it's very biased. It's very, even in your era, right? You can have this conversation that we're having and then still be an anchor tomorrow somewhere, right? The requirement isn't neutrality so much anymore. And is that an issue? Is that why now you have two camps? You don't know who to trust. They're saying you can't trust CNN. We're saying you can't trust Fox News. Is that a product of people being more outwardly political?
I mean,
anchors?
I think you're right. It's so bifurcated. I think sort of the feeling among journalists who might have been ostensibly more objective is that some of this behavior is so beyond the pale. It is really hard to be on one hand and on the other hand.
Yeah.
But this
Right,
even
so I
was
think-
even when George W. Bush though was president or Obama, that was already happening.
Yeah,
This
but I
has been
think
happening
CNN
for
was probably much more neutral when
They
George
were-
W. Bush
Yeah,
was
that's
president
true. Yeah.
and when Barack Obama was president. And I think, I think it has become intensely partisan. You're right. I mean,
Yeah.
you can watch Fox News and feel like you live in a different country
Sure.
than when you watch MSNBC.
Oh, for fun, when I'm at a hotel room
I do
traveling,
too.
I go back and forth to watch them cover the same story. And
I do too.
They bear no resemblance. Who's
Yeah.
in the middle that someone could go like, well, let me check in with the middle to see what maybe the blurring of all these facts might be.
Well, I
here.
think probably the evening newscasts are the most down the line.
Right.
But I think certainly on cable, it has become just bitterly partisan. And I
Yeah.
think there is a meanness, and I don't know whether that's because we have a president who's kind of routinely mean, but there does seem to be kind of a nastiness that has imbued all the coverage, I think, and infused all the coverage, I
Yeah.
guess. And, I was watching Laura Ingraham on Fox when I was traveling, and she was doing the whole LeBron James takedown. And I was just like, God, that is so nasty.
I missed the LeBron.
That was when she said dribble and shut up.
Oh,
or
great.
Shut up and dribble.
Oh, wonderful.
And it was so, I guess she didn't like something that he had said, and
Sure.
he is anti-Trump, and then she thought he shouldn't do that. And the whole thing felt so just vitriolic,
Yeah.
honestly, and awful. It's very hard to, I don't know. It's hard to have that in your head all the time. And that's why I think probably, the ratings are really high on Fox and CNN and MSNBC. But
It's all been great for television, for
but-
late night.
yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it does feel like, can't we all want to say a Rodney King? Like, can't
Yeah,
we
yeah.
all get along?
Yes.
But it
Well,
does
and-
make
and-
it hard to find common ground.
And I think one of the reasons, and there's been some recent science to support this, which is if you look at people's brains during an MRI
Yeah.
or whatever, you by the way, Monica corrects us at the end of this. You'll leave.
Fact
She'll listen to
check.
it and
Oh,
she'll point out
good. Okay.
everything. Yeah. If you look at people's brains while they start talking about politics, you see the area of the brain that is your identity, right? And anytime people are discussing things that potentially affect their identity, that's when you see the most outsized reactions, the vitriol, what you're talking about. So even the fact that you listen to our language, you go, I'm a Democrat, I'm a conservative, I'm a liberal. Well, no, you're not those things. You're a father, you're a mother, you're a daughter. Those are identities. These are ideas you have that you happen to support or not support. But because it's filed in I am pro-life, I am pro-choice, when you start talking about that topic, your identity is being threatened. And you will fight very hard to protect your own identity to the death. And so that just the way we frame all these things is a little dangerous. That is, I am a liberal. Well, no, I have some liberal thoughts and I have some conservative thoughts and I have whatever, I think that's where it gets really dangerous.
If you're only getting, as I said, affirmation, not information, or
humans are almost incapable of receiving new information. You basically have opinions and then you find other information to support that opinion and then you throw out and reject information that threatens that opinion. So what's great is, and that's what we were talking about earlier, is systems can counteract that. So humans are very bad at this, but systems are good at it. Peer review is great at it. Science is great at it. The academia has been traditionally very good at this. And left to your own devices, you really can't escape confirmation bias, any of us.
And I think it's uncomfortable, right? It requires listening. It requires processing. It requires thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all those things, the world is working against those tendencies, and so that's one of the things, honestly, I tried to do in this series is to help people develop empathy for people who are different than they are. So one of them I did on what is it like to be a Muslim in America right now, with so much Islamophobia. When Kumail Nanjiani hosted SNL, he said Islamophobia is having a moment, and I wanted to understand what it's like to be a Muslim in this country right now, given the rhetoric, given the talk of the travel ban. And, I'm hoping that people, 50% of Americans say they've never met a Muslim. They probably have. They just don't realize
That's like
it.
when you used to ask if they knew a gay person in the 80s and they're like, no.
Yeah. And so I wanted to give Muslim Americans a chance to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to also provide a counter narrative to what we're hearing, what we're seeing, how our biases are being formed by what people hear on the news, on television. Georgia State did a study and said when a Muslim person commits a terrorist act, it gets 4.5 times the newspaper coverage as when a white American commits a terrorist act. And the way these acts are framed by the media and by politicians are so different that no wonder it feeds into our confirmation bias, right?
Yes.
Or supplies.
And we're born xenophobic. We have in-group, out-group, us, them. That's all hardwired into there. And if you think you're going to overcome that without a pretty sophisticated apparatus to help you overcome that, it's your state of nature,
right?
Is to do us and them. I see my 4-year-old daughter. I like a certain motorcycle racer, and so I watched the race with her, and she was like, I hope those other guys lose. Like she already, it's just in her to know, oh, that guy's got to win and those guys got to lose. And I was watching like, oh, this is just the circuitry. It's there.
Right. Well, you're also modeling for her, right?
Yeah. But I wasn't saying I hope those other guys lose. I'm just saying I love Valentino Rossi, which I do, Katie, so much.
Do?
Listen, I'm
it's
respectful.
So interesting, by the way, isn't
Please.
it? It's, it's interesting to talk about these things. I had this very remarkable experience during the course of making this documentary series. I went to Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and spent some time with some EMS workers. And I wanted to hear their reaction to sort of hot button cultural issues. So I asked them what they thought of Colin Kaepernick and the Take a Knee movement and what was being done at NFL games. And then I asked them, what do you think when you hear Black Lives Matter? And it's a group of white men all gathered around a table. We're eating cold pizza. And they said, all lives matter.
Right.
And, I started talking a little bit about systemic racism and the long tail of sort of what this country has been about and how we've never really acknowledged it, which is the subject of another hour I'm doing on Confederate statues. But anyway, this guy, an EMS worker named Carlos walked in. And he's African American, and he said he started talking about what Black Lives Matter means to him.
Yeah,
and he said, when I was younger, I would read articles about men being lynched for looking at white women, like he pointed at me.
Yeah,
and he talked about the civil rights movement, and he talked about the hatred that existed towards African Americans, and he said. He was much more eloquent than I am right now, but he just in a very measured way kind of talked about how he perceived
the historical
these movements.
Context, right?
And all the guys around the table just listened and they said, wow, just listening to Carlos talk about this really has changed my perspective. And I was like, if people sat around a table, I think I said this in the episode and talked, and shared their experience and ate cold pizza. And one of the guys even said, we've never talked about this because we didn't want to make you feel awkward. Well, maybe people need to feel a little awkward and a little more open to hearing, and because it is not black and white.
Right. But even in that situation, what was helpful is that he was an us. Because they were EMTs together, right? They were coworkers.
Yeah.
There was a level of us. And I think if white people are watching a black person interviewed on the nightly news, that person is them. And you need some binding agent to have your ears open, right? So luckily in that scenario, they came to know this guy and he was now us and not them. You know,
they didn't find him threatening, to your point.
And they say that the biggest leap forward in race relations ever was the Vietnam War, weirdly, because that was the first time we had non-segregated troops. And it was the first time white people from the middle of the country are living next to black folks, and they're talking to them and realizing, oh, we're fucking the same thing. And it's hugely helpful, right? To be interacting with one another and realizing there isn't an us and them, which is hard.
But also, the kind of narratives that we're fed that feed our implicit biases also need to be altered. When I, in the Muslim episode in 2008, I want to say, I can't remember the year, I was interviewing some actors from this show in Canada called Little Mosque on the Prairie.
Okay.
And it really just portrayed a Muslim family.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I think in America, we need a Muslim version of the Cosby Show. This was before we knew about Bill Cosby. So,
yeah,
keep that in mind. I got
Take that with a grain of salt.
asterisks.
Yeah, I got eviscerated for making that suggestion.
Oh, really?
But the thing is, that's what most Muslim families are like in this country. And I think because we see so little depicted of normal, Muslim Americans who are, share our values and believe in what we collectively believe as Americans.
Yeah.
We don't have a counter narrative. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important. And I think we're in the current climate, we don't get any kind of counter narrative of any kind.
Well, I believe we're getting about the most extreme info from the left, the most extreme 10% of the left, and the most extreme 10% from the right. I think they're making the headlines, so it's very deceptive. Actually, I don't think when I'm out in the real world, I don't find it as bifurcated as I'm led to believe if I go on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I'm very respectful of your time, so I just want to ask you a couple more personal things before you leave us.
Yeah.
And it's going to be sad when you do that, when you leave us. You're a female.
Yes.
I've noticed this about you from looking at you.
Last time I checked.
Yeah. And you raised daughters. You have 2 daughters?
I do.
And did you at all wrestle with the thing that my wife wrestles with, that a lot of women I know wrestle with, which is if you're not pursuing your career and you're at home, you're feeling guilty. And then when you're pursuing your career and you're not at home, you're feeling guilty. This terrible thing that is put upon women to just basically live in a state of guilt. Did that at all plague you?
Not as much as it might other moms, because I was very lucky. I could go home at noon or 1 o'clock and pick my daughters up from school.
That's great.
I traveled some, of course, my situation, when my husband died, my daughters were just 2 and 6. So that was obviously an incredibly challenging thing. But I feel very strongly that women need to be financially independent and have their own thing. I respect people who stay at home and raise their families if they have that choice and that luxury.
Yeah.
But I also feel that you never know what's around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important for you to develop your whole sense of self as someone who's also contributing to the world, if possible.
Yeah.
And that, that's really what I wanted to teach my daughters, the importance of being independent. And yes, at times I felt guilty about not being there. I missed when my daughter Ellie first walked. I think I was in Barcelona covering the Olympics.
Uh-huh.
But they have turned out really, really well.
Yeah.
They're great young women. I think they have an extraordinary sense of themselves and about their potential and what they can do in the world. And I just think that kids really benefit from seeing that.
Yeah. And your husband was 42 when he died?
Yeah.
So, and you were, how were you?
I was 41.
You were 41. And now I live in abject terror of this scenario because we have 3 and 4-year-old. And I just think, oh my God, what if tomorrow I'm doing this all by myself? Did you have a support system? Do you like grief counseling? How do you, that's by my estimation about the worst thing that can happen to somebody, you know?
Yeah, I think.
Well, no, your
probably,
child being sick would be worse. Yeah.
With losing a child, I think is.
Yeah, I don't know how one goes on after that.
But I mean, I don't think we have to rate like how
bad one thing is.
bad one thing is over another. Tragedies are tragedies, and you know, listen, I was lucky in that I had a job I loved. I had a very supportive community of people who watched me on the Today Show.
It's horrific enough to have that experience privately, but to show up to work when that is, I'm sure, a national headline. How are you just not so self-conscious that everyone in this room is thinking about this?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have that feeling?
Well, my husband was sick for 9 months. And for me, because when he was diagnosed, he had metastatic colon cancer. And for me, the 2 hours at the time I did the Today Show were kind of a respite from thinking about him and find a magic bullet, find a better treatment. I was doing tons of research on the side because he didn't really want to know a lot.
Yeah.
It's just unusual and interesting because he was exceedingly intelligent. And I took it upon myself to call pharmaceutical companies in Israel and to talk to universities and call NIH because I had some access to some of those places.
You're going through your...
And, but it was helpful for me to have those 2 hours where I could focus on something else. And it really required my undivided attention.
Yeah.
And, but you know, that I think back on that whole period of time and it's still so surreal for me where you're kind of going through the motions and, you know, we were on top of the world. Jay was loving his work in New York. I had this job I never imagined in a million years I would get. I've just never
And you're
thought.
in that period with children where it's like just this bubble of...
And our girls were so great. I always say to people, enjoy that sweet spot. I know your dad passed away, right?
Of cancer. And my stepfather is very much on his last legs with prostate cancer.
But that sweet spot in your life when your kids are little and your parents are healthy, it's such a wonderful time. And you have to really say, I wish I could just freeze frame this moment in my life. And you can't. So you just have to really
And did you have the
appreciate it.
awareness at the time? While it was happening,
really.
did you go like, oh, this is the sweet spot?
I mean, I think maybe occasionally I did, but probably not enough.
Yeah, it's hard to keep reminding yourself of that, right? I try to say it out loud as often as I can, so I'll start acknowledging it.
But you know, you get through it because you have to get through it. You don't have a choice. You have children.
I got to imagine there's a humongous dose of sorrow on your end because your partner and someone you've sworn to be with the rest of your life has passed. But then you've seen the love for their father. You've seen your daughters. I assume they loved him like crazy. And is that even more heartbreaking, knowing that that's going away for your kids? Because I certainly care more about what my kids are going through than what I'm going through. So does that compound everything?
You know, you just think about the fact that, you know, their dad is never going to be there for all important moments in their lives and to shape them. And I'm sure Jay would have had a lot to do with the people they eventually became. Yeah, of course. It's heartbreaking for them. It's heartbreaking for me. And to think about them having to not have a dad at these moments. You know, I remember there was a father-daughter dance at Ellie's school. And, you know, I went to the school and I said, there are 3 little girls who don't have dads at this school. Do you think we can get rid of this tradition? Can we have it like a special person? Daughter dance, because, you know, kids don't like to be different. No. And, you know, so. Yeah, those are the little things you wouldn't think about. You know, that made it really painful. But, you know, you keep moving forward. It is what it is. Yeah. You know. And
did you have a tactic that you employed to just keep moving forward? Did you go to therapy or did you have any like grief support group or anything like that?
I mean, I think I did go to therapy, and I had my daughter, who was 6, go and talk to somebody because I always feel like you never regret getting psychological help. You regret not getting it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And Carrie was only 2, so she was too little. And I think that, I tried to support them and do everything I possibly could.
Yeah.
I talked to their school. I helped put together a handbook for private schools in New York because as people have children older, this happens more often now.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel the school was especially prepared or equipped to deal with it.
Yeah.
When a parent dies.
Were you, I would imagine self-pity at that point is a very attractive option. Did you, I can imagine having to really try to steer myself out of going, the universe is conspiring against me. Or I've had so much good fortune in my life. This makes sense. Now it's getting even with me. Are you crazy like me or no?
I didn't sort of go through the, getting even thing, but I did have sort of a very problem-free life until I was 40. And then the decade between 40 and 50 was really challenging. I lost my sister to pancreatic cancer after my husband died.
Yeah, and you did something really cool, though, is that you got a colonoscopy on TV, right?
I did.
And it led to all these people getting colonoscopies, and they called it the Couric effect,
Yes,
right?
You did your homework.
So that is what an amazing way to turn something that you're so powerless against into something positive.
Yeah,
as hard as that is.
I was very fortunate because I had this built-in bully pulpit and I could actually educate people. And I always, there are a lot of people who have these terrible losses and you do feel so powerless during the course of a disease and there's just nothing you can do. It doesn't matter how successful you are.
No, you can't buy your way out of cancer.
Or fame your way out. And I think that, I felt a real obligation that I had an audience that might be receptive because they saw me going through this, that they might be educated about this and prevent it. And that has been an incredibly gratifying part of my life to be able to do that. I just took Jimmy Kimmel to get a colonoscopy because it's one of those things you have to keep reminding people. And when they turn 50 and 45, if you're African American, you have to get your first your baseline colonoscopy.
Yeah, I work with the prostate cancer foundation, and African Americans are twice as likely to die of that disease. African American men,
prostate cancer.
Yes, prostate cancer.
But I took Jimmy. He was such a good sport, because. I feel like he'll reach a new audience. Yeah. He really was great. And he's taken a strong interest in issues regarding people's health. And so that'll be really fun. And they did a funny skit with it. And I was sort of his date for his colonoscopy. And
I'm gonna lighten it up by telling you my colonoscopy experience.
Did you get a colonoscopy?
I've had so many, it would make your head spin.
Oh,
and here's because I had a grandfather who died of stomach cancer, and then I've had other members that I'll keep them private. But suffice to say, it's run rampant in my family, right? So at about 16, my mother's like, "You're getting colonoscopies."
16?
Yes, because I have very young members of my family have gotten this. So it was warranted. So I go and get my first colonoscopy at 16. Not what a 16-year-old boy's dying to do.
Yeah.
And then I was getting them every 5 years since then. And the last one I went to, which weirdly enough, I was prepping for it when I was with Jimmy Kimmel on a trip. And it's miserable because we're in Memphis and everyone's eating barbecue and I'm drinking that crazy fluid. And it's just terrible on all accounts. And then so I go to get my colonoscopy and the doctor, which is a new one, he goes, "Okay, so why are you getting these so often and why do you start so early?" And I go, because of familial palpopus or whatever, however you say it, right?
So you have, that's a very hereditary form.
Yeah, so I go, because of that. And he goes, "Okay, so your dad's dad died of it?" And I go, No, my mom's dad died of it. He goes, "Oh, it doesn't travel on the female side. You do not need to be getting these. You didn't need to get any of those."
Really?
Yes, that it doesn't travel. Look, I'm probably misinforming people, but again, Monica will tell me if I'm wrong. At least this doctor told me that that it would have had to have been on my father's side for me to
I'm
want
not
all
sure
this.
if that's right, Monica.
I'll
I
look.
think you need to fact check that.
She'll dig into that.
But
for
so
sure.
you had a
But the
family
point
history
is
of familial polyposis, which does affect people.
So I
at a
may
young
have
age.
gotten like 10 that I didn't need.
Yeah. Well, did you enjoy them?
You know,
Did you enjoy the anesthesia?
well, I'll tell you this.
It does give you a nice nap.
It does. And what's nice is they give you Versed before they give you the
Propofol.
knockout. Yes. So the Versed is a benzo. It's like a Xanax or something. And I'm sober for 13 years. So yes, it's a nice freebie. There's about a minute where you're just feeling the Versed before you go out. And for me, that's kind of worth it. So your daughters they're doing well. They've gone to college. They've done
Yeah.
the things that you would pray that they would do.
My younger daughter is graduating this spring, summer,
Uh-huh.
in June. So I guess before the start of summer. And my other daughter graduated in 2013.
Now, the dream is as a parent that your kids would think you're cool. And in our experience, we have the only two kids who don't care about Frozen, ironically.
Really?
Yeah. And so
Come on.
despite that your daughter's mother is Katie Couric, this just zenith of female empowerment and should be something of a source of great, great pride. Were they embarrassed by you growing up? Can you be cool to your kids? Were you the one person?
You know, they would get embarrassed about things that I would do. But in general, I think they're really proud of me, honestly. I think
Yeah.
they feel not always proud of me, but I think they feel that I've really tried to have a positive impact in the world. When Ellie was in 4th grade, she said to me in the kitchen, "Mom, I'm really proud of the things you're doing about colon cancer."
Oh,
And that
wow.
was so moving to me. And, you know, but she's also said to me once, I remember when I was interviewed for a woman's magazine, she said, "I'd prefer you don't tell stories about me. I feel like that's my
Yeah.
personal
Yeah.
information. And I feel like you shouldn't be sharing things like that."
Uh-huh.
So
That's cool.
I think we've had an incredibly open, extremely close relationship. And my younger daughter, who just got into Columbia Journalism School, I hope she goes, said, when I come back to New York, I hope we can spend some time together because I want us to be closer, which I thought was so
man.
sweet.
Nice.
Yeah.
She probably is going to get mad. Hopefully she won't hear this, but so I think we have a really wonderful, strong relationship. And I have to say, I'm very proud of my girls because most importantly, they're kind, nice young women.
Yeah.
They're also, I think, work super hard.
Mm-hmm.
They're not
Yeah.
entitled at all.
That's
And-
hard to do.
And they're not bratty.
Yeah.
I think they have exceptionally high emotional intelligence.
Yeah, those are all lovely things.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to ask you about, and then you can get out of my attic.
Okay. What are you eating, by the way? Are you eating
I'm
mints?
so addicted to nicotine. It's preposterous.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
So
these
that's-
are
is that-
nicotine throat lozenges because I
Oh, wow.
quit smoking 12 years ago.
And so do you eat those a lot?
Oh, you better believe it.
So
Around the clock.
is
But
that-
there's no downside to
There
it.
isn't?
No, nicotine in and of itself is not bad for you. It raises your blood pressure a little bit, but I have moderate to low blood pressure, so not an issue.
yeah.
Can also delay the onset of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's.
Seriously?
Yes.
Wow.
some studies
Can I have
found
one
that.
of those?
Yeah, you can take them
road.
all. Tell me when is your documentary airing?
So it's a documentary series.
So
It's
a
6 hours.
docu-series.
It's a docu-series. And it's
Ken Burns style?
not 20 hours or whatever he
Yeah,
did
yeah.
on Vietnam. I admire Ken so much. I
Oh,
think he
what a
does
beast.
just
Yeah.
amazing work. So even being, mentioned in the same sentence as him, it premieres on April 11th.
Uh-huh.
And that's the episode really examining Confederate iconography in
Yeah.
our memorial landscape. And
Yeah.
I was in Charlottesville during that horrific Unite the Right rally because
Mhm.
I'd gone there to explore how this whole controversy over the Robert E. Lee statue began, which
Yeah.
it began with a 16-year-old high school student who, did a petition about it. And that's how sort of the ball got rolling. But I was there for that rally and I travel all over the country, including a conversation with Brian Stevenson, who's opening up a lynching museum in April this month, because that's a part of our American history we've never really acknowledged or come to terms with. And he's the most extraordinary person.
Yeah. Can I just say, from my point of view, in school, I learned, we had slavery. That was deplorable. But Emancipation Proclamation, Abe Lincoln, we're good. We abolished it. And that was that. I'm now reading the Ulysses S. Grant biography, and it's so good at detailing what that next 8 years was like. And there was just people setting up shop at polling stations and just gunning down black folks that were going to vote. It did not end. And they really kind of whitewashed that in at least my education. I wasn't aware of, I thought, like a light switch, we did the right thing and that was that. And no, decades and decades of virtually no improvement whatsoever.
Exactly. And some of the things I learned in exploring this is when these statues were erected and what was the message behind them. A lot were put up after Brown v. Board of Education.
Yep.
In the years following that.
It's kind of hard to deny.
But I just want people to understand the backstory and that it isn't black and white, and to understand why these things are considered so offensive to African Americans in this country. It's very interesting. But anyway, that's an episode. And then we have 5 more. Yeah, it's on the National Geographic Channel. And so I did Muslims in America. I did this whole PC Nation, what's going on with cultural appropriation, safe spaces, microaggressions, trigger warnings, an examination of that. I did gender inequality in Hollywood and Silicon Valley. These all predated, by the way, the Me Too movement.
Right.
And
you filmed these, a year ago?
Well, I started in August working on these. So I've been shooting for about 8 months. I did an hour on white anxiety to help people understand kind of what's going on in some of these smaller cities and, the Rust Belt and rural America. I went to Storm Lake, Iowa, and Fremont, Nebraska, places I would never visit.
You could have run for office on all these stops.
But it did make me realize that people are in a bubble. They're not talking to people about their problems, their concerns, their lives, their triumphs and their tragedies. And you can see why there's a resentment on the part of people who feel that the media and other institutions are out of touch, because in many ways they really are.
Sure. Yeah. I'm lucky enough that all my hobbies are all red state kind of hobbies, into off-roading and all these other things. So I'm constantly submerged in an opposing viewpoint of my own. And at the height of the election, a year ago in November, and we went out to the sand dunes, Kristen and I, with our kids, and we're out there, and it's largely Trump flags on the back of dune buggies. And, we'd be sitting around talking with other families, and I would go, this guy's a dad. He went through a lot to get his family out here to do this recreational thing. And look at this guy pushing his kids on the swing set and all these things. And, where are you guys from? And where do you rent a motorhome? All these conversations were happening. And I was able to go like, all that political stuff, it's like number 9 of what I would judge someone's character on. It's like, first I was like, this guy's a great dad. 2, this guy loves, he loves his kids. He's a good husband. He's a hard worker. There's all these things that are actions. They're not thoughts. They're actions. If I judge this man by his actions, very admirable human being. And it just kind of right-sized how much I care about a political difference. If I just looking at what the human is, it just kind of right-sized it all. It was a good timing for us to go there, because obviously we're as much in a chamber as anyone else.
We have really, really demonized each other to such a degree that
I hate that the left's full explanation of Trump is that 30% of the country is racist. I'm just like, that's way too simple. It's too dismissive. It's too I reject that. I don't think that's.
But it's also because what you said, we are currently in a space that's so extreme. The actual things that are being said are so extreme by the candidates. So when a Muslim person is at the sand dunes talking to that person, they can say like, he's a good provider, he's a good father, but he is voting for someone that is going to ban me from living here.
Yes, and if I'm that Muslim in that situation, that is 100% how I would feel as well. Yeah. But I can look at that guy and go, you know what? I bet he has a single issue voter.
It's the economy's jobs, and I think it's.
So he might actually be sympathetic to that, or he might go, I don't believe in this wall, or I don't. But this issue for me, the other ones, unfortunately, are going to fall below the priority.
You can't generalize, but I think this whole notion of bringing back jobs, whether he'll be able to do that or not is, of course, a big question mark. But even caring about that, even wanting, even being responsive to that feeling of, there are deaths of despair among these communities from drug overdoses, alcoholism, and a huge spike in suicides.
Yeah.
And I think to feel that you're included, that you're heard,
Yep.
and that you're cared about was really part of
Yeah.
it.
Or someone
definitely.
saying, look, this system's not working. For those people, it's not working for them. And someone's actually going, well, this system's broke, which certainly takes the onus off of you. It's comforting to know, oh, I'm the victim of a flawed system, and this person's going to hopefully fix the system. I see the appeal of it. I personally don't feel excluded from this system. I'm lucky as hell. I'm, if anything, benefiting from the system. So I'm not as critical of it, but I know other people that feel very marginalized by the system,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also, though, a lack of like hearing both sides and saying this person's also saying that the system is broken, but that's not the solution.
Yeah.
Here's a different solution. It's just, everyone's
I think you're, when you're really worried about feeding your family
Yeah.
or paying your mortgage,
Exactly.
that's what is really speaking to you
Yeah.
more than some of these other issues that maybe you'd be surprised about their point of view, but it's not just what's propelling them to vote a certain way. And, the couple of guys I talked to in Erie, I sat in a bar and just, shot the shit with these
Got
guys.
hammered.
And, no, in Erie, I had a beer, and I'm not a
Okay.
big beer drinker, but they said, hey, we voted for Obama twice.
Yeah.
And I think they saw the life that they expected kind of crumbling before their eyes. And they felt that somebody cared about them.
Look at this Flint Netflix series that just came out, 8 parts on Flint. I'm from Michigan.
Oh, I did a thing on Lifetime about Flint with
you did?
Queen Latifah, which was a really good movie, a Lifetime movie.
What's it called?
It's called Flint.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But yeah, you look at that community, the auto industry is left, and you've got 100,000 people who are living below, many of them in below the poverty line. That the police department's got a third of what they're supposed to have. You look at all these things, and if I live in Flint, Michigan, I need someone to say, like, this thing's fucked up. This is broken. I need, so I can totally sympathize with that.
One just last point, which I think is so interesting, is this huge transformation we're witnessing in the world of work, where automation, 38% of jobs, I think, are going to be lost to automation
There was an
in the
article.
next 15 years, I think. We have to help figure out what people are going to do for a living.
retraining.
Yeah,
That has to be
yeah.
part of the
Retraining.
Well, or
And
even a
also
living
training,
a stipend. What do they call it?
What do they call it? Universal public income? What do they call it?
Yeah.
It's just amazing how transformative technology is in every arena. And I would love the presidential candidates or the president himself to start really examining what this means. If in fact 38% of jobs may be lost to automation in the next 15 years, that is extraordinary.
It's
and
extraordinary.
How are we educating people?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about retraining. I'm talking about training. How is our educational system going to respond to that?
Yeah.
How do we help people who mid-career, like a lot of these people I spoke to in my white anxiety hour, are going to adjust so they'll have something, a paying job in the future? These are huge, huge issues. More people are talking about it now, but I feel like our politicians really aren't.
Yeah. I think, when it's 90% unemployment and there is a stipend from the government, fine, that's going to be great. To me, it's when you get to 40% unemployment, that's Civil War time. It's the transition before everything's actually being provided by all this robotics and,
Not to
and
mention, the role they're going to play in modern warfare. And it's a very complicated and really scary and altering thing to think about.
I'm an
really
optimist,
important.
though. We'll figure it out. I think we'll.
You don't think the robots are going to turn on us and
I
kill us?
know. I think they're missing some primitive hardware that makes us egomaniacs. It's fascinating.
I think it's fascinating, too.
How do you navigate? I have to imagine your job is a little bit similar to an actor's in that there is occasionally job insecurity or relevance insecurity or all these things. So you've navigated a very long career, but I have to imagine, from my perspective, it's all been, as I said, all peaks, but I'm sure there's been many times where you felt like, okay, the ride's over. I'm pulling back into the station. Is that plague you, or are you inordinately confident and optimistic?
I mean, of course it plagues me. I usually just try to focus on the work itself. What can I do that I'm really going to enjoy?
Mm-hmm.
What am I good at? What skills do I have that are, different? And how can I employ them in what I do on a daily basis?
Mm-hmm. But we live in a very unfair world for women in particular.
Yeah.
Where
in
they
fact,
age out women way quicker than men.
Yeah. I think, well, not only that, but the whole idea of a glass cliff. When a woman fails,
There
it
we go.
becomes
Glass
this
cliff,
huge,
yeah.
big Megillah, but men fail up and,
Yeah.
men blame other people, women blame themselves. Like there's this whole
Mm-hmm.
kind of different way that women and men are perceived and cope individually or personally with success and failure. But, I don't know. I just sort of am having fun. I keep doing things that I think are important, that fill a need that isn't being filled right now.
But did you get to a point where you were able to finally go like, all right, shut up, brain. If I look at the facts, the history of my life, I've stayed employed. Everything's worked out. When did you feel finally like, you know what, I'm good.
I don't have to prove anything anymore.
Yeah, and just the facts would suggest I'm going to land on my feet all the time and just stop worrying about it and keep moving forward.
No, I wish I could be more like that.
Oh, okay,
but
good,
I'm not
good.
like that.
Good, because I aspire to that, and I would have been very jealous if
No.
you...
I mean, I always feel like I have something else to do and something else to conquer, and maybe I'm egotistical enough to think that I have something else to offer.
Uh-huh.
So I like being in the mix. I like talking about important issues. I like contributing any way I can. I like adjusting to technology and the way people are consuming and the way you deliver information. So I've really embraced, things like podcasting. I do a weekly podcast myself.
Yeah, say the
I've
name
embraced,
of that so people can check it out.
It's called, ready for it? Katie Couric.
Nice, simple, hard to forget.
I need a better one. I need like an armchair expert.
No, you got to
something.
stick. You got to stick.
No,
with it.
no. I really want to change the name. So if you guys have any ideas,
Okay,
tell
people
your
tweet-
listeners.
yeah,
tell your
tweet
listeners
Katie.
to come up with a better.
But would you ever take an anchor job again?
Probably not. I don't really think of it that way. I think of what is the project and where can it get to people and how do you.
Yeah, because I don't think people recognize that even the world's most exciting jobs become routine after a while.
It's true.
As dreadful as that is to admit publicly, but even for me, acting was much more fun 15 years ago than it is today, simply just because I've done it a bunch of times. And I would imagine any job as spectacular as it is, you're ready for some change.
Yeah, and I also like the idea of controlling my own destiny, not having to work for someone, not having to suck up to people to get good assignments, and not having to be at the whim of some person, because it's oftentimes very subjective.
Yeah.
When you're an on-camera person or when you're an actor, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's sort of like somebody likes you, somebody doesn't. But the thing is, I also feel like as somebody, I'm 61, and why should I be aged out of doing what I do? And I feel a responsibility that, I have probably a lot more experience than a lot of people. Why should I step aside if I feel like I still have something to offer just because I'm not 32 anymore? And I think part of it is we become conditioned in an almost Pavlovian way to see somebody who looks a certain way on camera. And then you see somebody who looks older, you're like, what happened? And I think it's really important to see older people.
Yeah.
Bob Schieffer did Face a Nation for years and years.
Look at Morley Schaefer on 60 Minutes.
And I guess you do see some older women, but very rarely, like Leslie Stahl,
Leslie,
for
she's
example.
crushing it
But
still.
Yeah. And so
I have a crush on Leslie. Big
Do ya?
time. Yeah, she's a beast. Powerhouse.
So, I think that's really important that people, they see it and it's not such a shock.
Where I grew up, I can't, it's hard for me to unplug this fantasy I have where you work really hard, you have some success, and then you retire and you go to Florida, right? Or wherever you go. And Boca.
I don't know.
Yeah. And do you have that fantasy, or do you go, no, I enjoy working and I don't have a plan to not work?
Yeah. I have a very hard time thinking about this idea of retiring or, I would like to have a little more time to travel with my husband. I have a great husband, and he's really funny and smart and interesting. And he thinks I'm crazy because he thinks I'm like this workaholic fiend.
Yeah, that's sometimes how I think of my wife. But
Is she a workaholic?
She likes to work.
Yeah.
But my mother loved to work. So it
you're
doesn't
used
take
to that.
it doesn't take a Freudian therapist to figure out how I ended up with someone who
Yeah.
loves to work. It's very attractive
what about
to me.
you? Do you want to retire and just kick back?
Yeah.
And what would you do with your time if you did that?
Motorsports all day
Oh, you
long.
would?
Yeah.
And do you think you'd get tired of that though?
Well, there's only one way to find out. I mean, presumably I would because I get tired of anything, I guess.
Right.
But anything that has an accelerator pedal or on the handlebars, I can spend endless time doing that. But at the same time, to your point, I do think it's really important to be ever expanding your mind. And if you're not engaged in something, I don't know how you keep expanding it, And I feel like a dedication to continually expanding that. And
which I think keeps you vibrant and youthful and alive.
Yeah. As Sam Harris said recently when we saw him live, being drug, sometimes kicking and screaming to a new perspective. Once you get to that new perspective, it's incredibly rewarding. And I would hate to think that my days of being drugged to a new perspective would end,
Yeah, I agree. And just learning all the time. I mean, there's a constant opportunity to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I have things I care deeply about. Stand Up to Cancer is something I co-founded, and I want to definitely stay involved in that. And, it's a whole new landscape too. I think there might have been a time with limited outlets that you exhausted those and there's not much you can do.
Right.
But now with disintermediation and being able to create things and build things out of nothing, the opportunity to be much more entrepreneurial and not work in sort of a corporate environment has never been better.
Yeah.
So, I think you can keep going as long as you want to keep going.
Yeah, you can make it exactly what you'd want it to be,
Yeah.
assuming you have that leverage, which I think you do and will continue to have. I'm so flattered that you came to talk to us.
This was so fun. It was
truly
very interesting.
exciting.
Thank you, Armchair Expert.
Well, anyways, I say this sincerely. I have a very strong, wonderful mother. I've been blessed to have her raise me. And I'm so drawn to other successful, prolific, ambitious, engaged female. I'm so glad you're around. And I'm glad that my daughters have someone to look at like you.
Well, they're
You
going to
make
be
the
a
world
lot
better.
There are going to be a lot more of us in their generation.
Yeah, we would think so. And hopefully that'll lead to all kinds of good things. All right, Katie Couric,
Thank
I
you,
love
guys.
you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Stay tuned if you'd like to hear my good friend and producer Monica Padman point out the many errors in the podcast you just heard. All right, Monica, let's do Katie Couric.
Okay. Well, one thing I do want to say, I got a lot of pushback from last week's fact check because I said whooping cough was tuberculosis, and it's not.
Oh, okay.
It's actually pertussis. A lot of people told me that. So I stand corrected.
Great.
And
and good news, if you've got whooping cough, you don't have tuberculosis.
Maybe it's pertussis.
Per-
Or something. But I was just saying that off the fly. That wasn't a check.
Yeah, it's really hard sometimes because we're kind of making jokes on the fly and we're talking about serious stuff. And look, the bottom line is this fucking thing's never going to be perfect. Right. I'm going to interrupt some. I'm going to do a little better, but it is what it is at some point, right?
Exactly.
We're sorry and we'll try to do better. Tuberculosis. Congratulations. You have whooping cough. What if the doctor said, I've got good news and bad news? The bad news is you have whooping cough. The good news is you don't have tuberculosis.
That's silver lining.
Yeah.
Katie talked about the LeBron James takedown, Laura Ingram's takedown of LeBron James, and we didn't know what that was.
Oh, is this where someone tweeted, just dribble the basketball or something?
She's a Fox News anchor.
Oh.
And he had said the number one job in America, the appointed person, is someone who doesn't understand the people. So he had said some political comments.
Okay.
in an interview. And then he had said some of the president's comments are laughable and scary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was his opinion.
That was his opinion, exactly. And then she
But he
responded-
shouldn't have an opinion because he plays basketball.
Right. She responded on her show saying the comments were, quote, barely intelligible.
Oh boy, there's
and
like a little racial
ungrammatical.
undercurrent.
And she said, it's always unwise to seek political advice from someone who gets paid $100 million a year to bounce a ball. Keep the political comments to yourself. Shut up and dribble.
I do love this theory because, of course, a lot of people tell me on Twitter that stick to acting or whatever they think I do, that somehow a certain occupation would preclude you from having an opinion.
I know.
In a democracy, which we're all encouraged to have.
And those people are sharing their opinions.
Exactly. So like, all right, yeah, you stick to dermatology or whatever it is you do.
Yeah.
And we'll all just never have, we'll never air any of this out, and then we'll go vote privately, and then we'll die a sad, lonely death.
Yes.
I think LeBron James should say whatever he wants.
Me too.
I also hope he keeps dribbling that basketball. He's a hell of a player.
He doesn't have to shut up and do it, but he should do it.
Yeah, he should do all things.
Exactly. You said if you look at people's brains during an MRI when they're talking about politics, you see the area of their brain light up that's connected to their identity.
Mm-hmm.
And that is correct.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah,
I was
you
prepared to
got
have a lot of egg on my face. Yeah.
Yeah, they did a study at USC,
Oh,
Brain and Creativity Institute.
proud educators of O.J. Simpson.
Oh, good for them.
Yeah.
Do you think he was taking the psychology classes?
I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but maybe.
Well,
Actually, maybe.
Yeah, there's a racial undercurrent to that statement.
No, it's not. It's a football.
I'm calling the.
Don't say that. That had nothing to do with it. Most of the football players in my school were not taking those classes.
They
I'll
weren't.
say that.
Well, I did see a real sports not too long ago about an NFL lineman who is a mathematician. And they asked him in the interview, someone with your statistical awareness, given the brain injury issue and how much you value your brain, how do you continue to play? And he basically said, I'm aware of it, but then that guy retired. And not because he didn't make a team. He took that, I guess, that question to heart.
Interesting.
Hell of a mathematician.
I'll say this. Only time I ran into the football players in classes was in my Dance 101 class.
Oh, there were football players?
Many.
Were they gigantic?
Oh, yeah.
Did you
I sat in the
looking at
back
them?
row. I sat in the front row, so I couldn't see them. But they occupied a lot of space. They were very nice.
Uh-huh.
And
Were you attracted to football players? Is that your
No.
Yeah, it's not generally your type.
too macho.
Too macho. Yeah, toxic masculinity, like
Exactly.
Kristen's show.
Exactly.
I'd love watching big Goliaths move around gracefully. That would be great. I would imagine they're pretty good at dance because
You know
they're
what?
nimble.
It was a lecture. It was not a movement class.
Oh my god!
It was intro to dance.
Who
It was
fucking takes a class
like dance
of,
history or something.
Who wants to read about dancing? I want to learn how to foxtrot.
Yeah, I think people wanted an A.
Yeah. Okay.
That was sort of my whole point. That was the whole point. Okay, so she couldn't remember the year she interviewed actors from the show Little Mosque on the Prairie.
Okay.
She thought it was 2008 and it was 2011.
Mm.
And she did get in trouble.
She did?
Yeah, she got in trouble because she had said that there should be a Muslim version of the Cosby Show in the United States. And then she got a lot of pushback for that, which seems strange.
Sure.
Because
In 2008, or 2011, she did, or currently?
in
she's gotten pushed?
2011, because it was too cavalier. Like, Hollywood can't solve this problem.
Holly weird.
Hollywood can't solve this massive Islamophobia problem. Okay, you said African American men are twice as likely to die of prostate cancer.
Yeah.
But then, according to HarvardProstateKnowledge.org, African American men have the highest incidence of the disease. They're roughly 1.6 times more likely to develop prostate cancer than whites and 2.6 times more likely than Asian Americans.
To develop it. But the point I was making, I only know this because I'm on the Prostate Cancer Foundation, but I'm their spokesperson. I do a lot of press for them. I don't even know how at what rate they contract it, but I know that their treatment isn't is good, in that once they have it, they die at twice the rate.
Okay.
Just to make that distinction clear. But now I'm nervous even saying that.
That also might.
I think it's a socioeconomic
Correct.
issue. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
No, there are diseases that do disproportionately affect African Americans. One of them being hypertension. They have a way higher rate of hypertension.
Well, this does developmentally wise.
Oh,
I guess.
Yeah, so both probably on both ends. They're both in their survival from it and diagnosis of it.
Yeah. Familial.
Get your buns checked if you're African American.
Yeah.
Let someone get in there and root around a little bit.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
And probably for everyone.
Everyone, yeah.
All
yeah.
the guys. Asian Americans, I guess if you want to.
If
It
you-
sounds like
if
your
you have
risk
a-
is pretty low.
If you have an opening in your schedule, sure.
Okay. Familial polyposis.
Oh, I can never say that word. Thank you.
Polyposis. According to my research, and I did a lot because I really
Care about me.
Yeah, I care about you, and I love that story so much.
Uh-huh.
That's not true.
It's not?
Mm-mm. It can be inherited by either parent. It can come through either lineage.
Well, fuck, I need to get back down there then and get some, because it's been, well, again, I remember I was on that airplane ride with James Kimmel. So it was, it was about 11 years ago. And I think I was supposed to go every 5 years or something. So yeah, maybe I should go back. But that doctor really did tell me that.
I know.
I guess this stuff evolves so quickly. Maybe with the time he told me it, that's what.
Maybe. It's 2/3 of all the cases are inherited from a parent with the mutant APC gene. And the remaining 1/3 of cases just arises from a spontaneous gene mutation.
Just bad luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the other 30%.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we just got your lab results back. It appears you have bad luck.
Yes.
Good news, though. No tuberculosis.
Only whooping cough.
Just a slight case of colon whooping cough.
Okay, so then you brought up because you were eating your nicotine lozenge that you love so much.
Love them. I got one in now.
Yeah, they smell really minty and nice.
Yeah, they're not bad.
Yeah, but you
Much
were
better than my habit of chewing tobacco back in the day.
yeah.
That does not make your mouth smell good.
This is better than that. Yeah, and you had mentioned that there are some advantages to nicotine. In 2006, some Duke scientists did some research on this. And there's a direct link between nicotine and an increase in the release of dopamine and serotonin.
Boom.
Separate study.
Okay. We're now switching studies.
Yeah, switching studies.
I hope this is going to support my Parkinson's, Alzheimer's claims.
Well, in 2000, a study performed at Stanford.
Never heard of it.
Okay. It's a very...
Community college?
Yeah, it's a very lowly college.
Okay, for losers and dum-dums.
For people who couldn't really get into any of the other colleges,
Okay, like
they let them in.
Okay, feeder college for losership.
Pretty much, yeah. They revealed some surprising results about nicotine's effects on blood vessels for new diabetes treatment. People
Or as Wilford Brimley would say, diabetes.
Yeah, a lot of Southerners say that.
Diabetes.
Yeah.
He'd say, if you've got diabetes, get your blood sugar checked regularly. That's what Wilford Brimley. He was on a campaign to help us be aware of diabetes.
Well, it's because diabetes, you have poor circulation.
That's why they lose limbs,
Exactly.
right?
And sometimes they get gangrene. You have to amputate their feet and stuff.
It's such a bummer of a disease, diabetes. As cute as the name is, diabetes, it is a very tragic, but good news.
It's
not tuberculosis. Congratulations.
Am I saying it weird? Tuberculosis.
Yeah. I got some heat from last week's, the way I pronounce
Vietnamese. But that was part of it that you didn't know how.
Okay. I just saw a lot of people on Twitter like phonetically spelling it out, which didn't help me at all, by the way. Guys, when you phonetically spell stuff out for me, it's not a huge help.
Can you say it right now?
Vietnamese?
No.
Okay. Still bad. All right.
No.
Well, look,
it's really
if you're
endearing.
listening, get on Twitter right now and spell it out. Use numbers. You say it.
Vietnamese.
I can't even hear what you're doing
Really?
differently. Yeah, that's what's weird.
That is interesting. You're saying Vietnamese.
Great. Sounds right.
Vietnamese.
So far.
You're
get some Vietnamese food.
transposing the N and the M.
Oh, easy mistake. Those letters are so similar.
They are.
Make similar noises.
Okay. So, and yes. lowers the incidence of Alzheimer's in smokers. I didn't say anything about Parkinson's.
Okay.
But Alzheimer's, yes. She said that Ken Burns did a 20-hour documentary on
Vietnam.
Yes. On Vietnam.
How about when people say Vietnam?
Yeah. I don't.
You sound suspicious.
Because to me, the people who say that went there.
Yeah.
So
Well,
maybe-
they'll say Nam.
Yeah.
They never say Nam.
I know, that's true.
Vietnam.
But that's a 10-part, 17.5-hour
Oh.
documentary series. You watched it, right?
I watched like 4 of them and I loved it. It's such a bigger story than I knew about. You know, just
17 and a half hours worth.
Yeah, the history leading up to it, Ho Chi Minh, all that stuff was a lot more nuanced and complicated and interesting than I was expecting. Yeah.
Cool. I tried to watch it and I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
It was hard to find.
I think PBS maybe, and I could be wrong, but yeah, usually you can go to the PBS app and watch stuff. And that one, they seem to want you to buy it or do something crazy. So then I added it to the DVR and it picked it all up. And now I have no space for anything else. So I guess I have to watch it at this point just to
Get rid of it.
clear up some space.
Yeah. We were talking about when automation takes over and eventually we will have to have some sort of public stipend.
Oh, right.
And she couldn't remember what that was called.
The
She
living wage.
She thought it was universal public income, but there's a lot of names for it. But the main one is a basic income.
Oh, okay.
So, or basic income guarantee, citizens income, unconditional basic income, universal basic income, basic living stipend, or universal demo grant.
And do nothing, get paper.
Yep, a new kind of welfare regime in which all citizens receive a regular, livable, and unconditional sum of money from
Which
the
might be
government.
unavoidably in our future.
It might be.
Yeah,
We'll see.
we'll find out if Yovel is correct.
Yuval.
Yovel.
It might be Yovel.
He's
But it's
Vietnamese,
not.
isn't he?
Yeah. And he does not
He's
have
Israeli.
tuberculosis.
No,
Yet.
that's the good news.
That's the good news. Okay. How many people living under the poverty line in Flint, Michigan? You said 100,000. Between 2009 and 2013, 41.5% of Flint's residents lived below the poverty line.
And there's what, 300,000 Flintians?
I don't know. I'm
Okay.
realizing that. I'm
Okay,
realizing that as I'm reading it out
Yeah.
loud. I don't know.
I would have loved to have crunched those numbers. You know how much I like
can
to
find out.
show off my math skills when you give me like a percentage and then I have the total and then I can crunch that number.
Do you want to
really
do
quick.
it live?
Yeah, because if it was 41% and there were 300,000 people, that's 120,000 people, give or take like 1,000 people.
Okay. 2016,
Yeah.
that's the number I have here. The population of Flint, Michigan is 97,386.
So you don't think there's 100,000 people below the poverty
no,
line?
I'm going to say no.
Well, that's really easy now. So then we can just say 40,000 because it was almost 100,000 people and it's a 41%. So we'll just say 40,000
Okay.
people. Okay.
Great. And that's compared to 16.8% in the rest of the state. It's really high.
It's super duper high.
So you referenced a Sam Harris live show that we went to. You were talking about getting sort of dragged into a new perspective, and that's
Wow.
good.
And that was Steven Pinker's.
That was Steven Pinker's talk.
Yeah.
But I thought this was just interesting. This isn't a fact check, really, but I thought it was interesting because the reason that came up, it was during the Q&A portion at the end. Those can be brutal.
Uh-huh.
'Cause
Yeah.
people really using that platform for their 15 minutes
Yeah.
of fame. But this guy had a really good question. He said, when was the last time you changed your mind about something?
Yeah. And Sam did say death penalty. And I thought, oh, that's interesting because that's also one of mine that I've changed my opinion on.
Right.
That and tort reform.
But most people probably can't answer that, but it's a very good thing to keep in your brain circulating.
Yeah, it's a good goal to have,
Yeah.
basically. You should be able to name something that you've discovered you were wrong about.
Yeah, you're malleable enough to
Open-minded
change your
enough.
mind.
Yeah.
Based on
Do you have
knowledge.
one?
Well, I was thinking, well, death penalty is one for me too,
Okay.
but also probably abortion. I'm sure at some point. I
Okay.
was,
Pro-life.
Yeah, as like a young person though, so it's harder. It's hard. I've only been an adult for a couple of years.
Ooh, let's talk about this because Kristen and I had a juicy conversation the other night. This is real dangerous, but let's do it. The pro-life, pro-choice debate in the country, to me, is about the least bridgeable topic we have. There's really no compromise, which is really disconcerting.
Very hot button, the hottest button, perhaps.
It is, and it just what's really troubling about it is, neither side can be happy with the compromise, and that's just again, I have a certain position on it, but it's not to say that I don't feel for the people who are pro-life or want them to be happy as well.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself saying this, so I think it's unrealistic to imagine that young teenage people with tons of new chemicals in their brains and hormones are going to be thinking correctly and making great choices all the time. I just think that's a very unrealistic expectation. But I have to say, knowing that there's no solution, right, that there's no compromise that both sides are going to be happy with, I did think, God, is there any movement on my side? Is there anything that I could concede on the pro-choice side? And what I thought was, this morning after pill, what's it called? Plan B.
Yep.
Now, I think it's too much to expect young people to be always making the right decisions while drunk at a party in 15. I don't know that I think it's too much to expect them to go get the Plan B pill the next day. I don't know that that's an expectation that we can't have of young people. And of course, it would require a huge evolution in dispensing that medicine.
Yes.
It would have to be available at schools.
Yep.
No questions asked.
Yep.
That might be really hard. Parents might object to that. But I have to say, just in looking for some solution that neither side's going to be happy with, it did occur to me, I don't even know that I support it or don't, but it did occur to me, oh my God, that actually could be a movement in that direction. Abortion has been rendered obsolete a little bit because of that pill. I mean, that is the more gruesome of the options at your disposal if you become pregnant and you don't want to carry the baby to term. It's much easier and probably healthier to take that pill the next day.
Yeah, I think the problem is you do have to take it. I don't know enough about the Plan B pill to speak knowledgeably on it.
Either. They might be a sponsor at some point, though, so let's be careful.
No, I have nothing bad. I have nothing bad to say about it other than you have to take it in a time frame.
Okay, but again, and again, you're right. I don't know the side effects of the pill, so I don't know if it's bad to take it all the time. But yes, kids won't realize they're pregnant quite often till later in the game. But is it an unrealistic expectation just to go like, hey man, you have sex in high school, you got to take that thing the next day?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there are lasting effects from taking it. I don't know how often you can take it. If there are no side effects or no problems, sure, everyone should be taking it every morning, I guess, with their breakfast.
Well, not if they didn't have sex the night before.
But kids, not just kids, adults, young adults who aren't ready to have children.
Yeah, people in general who had sex and it was unprotected, they should take that pill the next day.
And it would have to be more than just schools and your doctor's office. It would have to be, you should be able to walk into any doctor's
7-Eleven.
office, any clinic, anywhere, and get it for free.
Yeah, that would be a lot cheaper. Before you say, oh, that's a welfare thing, it would be a lot cheaper. A lot of these, no, I know you wouldn't, but some people will say, oh, we don't have to pay for people's birth control.
Right.
The issue with people saying that you don't have to pay for people's birth control, albeit it's a fine statement in and of itself, it does deny the reality of our medical system, which is we don't deny people care. So that statement does make sense and would hold up if we had a country that denied people medical care. So if you could go to an emergency room and they say, get the fuck out of here, you don't have insurance, then yes, that statement makes sense.
Yeah.
But acknowledging that we don't deny care and that we will end up paying for it at some point down the line, then you have to get a little pragmatic about what the costs of treating things in an emergency room versus treating things preemptively.
Yeah. I think a lot of people who are pro-life believe at the moment of conception that is a human.
Uh-huh.
And so the plan B pill is
That's
still
not-
for
that's
them
not
would
good.
not be an option. 'Cause
Okay.
it's still, it's the same effect. I
Okay,
think.
so maybe this isn't a compromise.
I
by
don't
any
know if
stretch.
it is. I wish there was a compromise.
I'll tell you why. The reason that it's troubling to me that this divide exists is because if I were pro-life, that would be the most important topic for me. That would be the most important thing to vote for.
Mhm.
if
And
I
it
were
is for
pro-life.
many. Yeah.
And so I would then kind of be forced to choose whatever candidate was pro-life. I'd have to prioritize that over all other issues, which would be very fair.
Yeah.
And so what I don't like is that it limits people's voting to
I
that
know.
one issue, but I understand it and I'm sympathetic to it. I don't
understand
agree with it.
too.
So I would like to figure out a way where we can make that
I
not
know.
a single issue voting thing.
Here is my problem. I can fully understand the mentality of being pro-life.
Uh-huh.
I very much understand that. But what I don't understand is in the same party, in the same candidate you are voting for, they're pro-life and they're cut social programming, cut welfare, cut all of the things that are going to help that baby that
Once
you sort
it's
of
born.
forced to be born to live a good, happy, successful, opportunistic life.
Yeah.
It's very
Seems contradictory.
it's very contradictory, and that's
I
my
don't
problem.
feel this way, but I understand it. I do understand it. It doesn't. It's not that I can't find the logic in the argument. I can. I just disagree with it. They're not guaranteeing you anything by being born in the U.S. You're not guaranteed healthcare. You're not guaranteed food. You're not guaranteed anything. You are guaranteed life. That's what they'd say. You have a right to your life. You don't have a right to any services after that point. Again, I don't agree with that, but that's a sound argument, is that you are guaranteed to a life. You're constitutionally guaranteed your life. You're not
Right.
constitutionally guaranteed food, medicine, anything beyond that point.
Okay. Yeah.
So I it's not illogical. I just don't agree with it.
It is illogical when you start thinking about what is the purpose of life, to just have a body in existence, and that if that's living, then I guess that's fine. But that doesn't
but
make
that person might then say, yes, they do deserve all that stuff, but they should be finding that through the church or through an organization. It's not the government's role to be providing that stuff. So maybe they might even go, I do agree with you. They should have an education. They should have food and medical. But that's something that a church has to provide, or some philanthropic organization. It's not the U.S. government's role. Again, I don't agree with that, but that I can see. I don't think it makes that person a psychopath.
well, a 16-year-old girl who doesn't know she's pregnant and is drinking and is doing whatever 16-year-old girls do, and this
Well, let's
The
go to
life
the
of
worst
this-
example because it's easier to defend. Let's say the 16-year-old's raped, which happens all the time.
right, but that's not really my point.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay. If this child is not taking care of the baby
Mhm.
in the womb, and the baby is
Oh, I see what you're
is not
saying.
entitled to a life of, potentially fetal alcohol syndrome or
Mhm.
disabilities or these things, that person is now forced into that. The baby is now going to have medical issues,
Mhm.
and that party, generally speaking, is not for adding more money into the healthcare system, any of these things that's
Mhm.
going to help that person survive actual life.
Right. I bet that those people would say, while that 16-year-old's pregnant, they don't have the right to party.
But they may not know. They're 16. 16-year-olds are dumb.
Right, but I think that the person that was pro-life would say, you're ignoring the solution, which is, yes, I'm asking that person for 9 months of their life to give up their rights because they're growing another human being, right? So Once it's alerted that they're pregnant, yes, they have to be supervised, or they have to pee into a cup, or they have to be monitored, or they have to go someplace that's funded by the government so that they can healthily grow the baby in their belly.
Mm-hmm.
They would probably say, yeah, it blows for the 16-year-old. It's going to be 9 months of their life, and that sucks. But that's just, you're going to have to, you got pregnant, and now you're going to, 9 months of your life, you're going to have to grow this thing healthy, and then you can do whatever you want after you give birth. I imagine that's what they would say.
Right.
Again, I don't agree. I don't agree with
And
that.
it costs a lot of money to do that properly.
And I bet they'd be fine with spending that money to get babies out healthy.
No. They are not for adding more funding into the healthcare system and insurance. No.
Even for 9-month windows. Well,
yeah, that's Jimmy Kimmel's whole thing right now with the children, the Healthcare Act and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rob has to go.
Oh shit. Okay.
So we're all done with the fact check. Obviously, there was less than normal because Katie is so knowledgeable on all her facts.
She is, right. She didn't fuck up at all.
Mm-mm.
And she was smart enough on the fly. If she was questionable, she would check before she spoke, which is really admirable.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you for your healthy, respectful debate, Monica. I always appreciate it. And I love everyone.
Me too.